Hey everyone, hope that you guys are all doing well. Really excited for today's episode. Um, I really hope that this impacts you all. It's going to be fantastic. Just waiting for Thabani to join quickly. I see he has joined. Let me just pin my comment quick. And then we're ready to go. All right. So, hope you guys enjoy the show. All right, just waiting for him to join. Thabani, how are you?
Good, thanks to you, brother.
I'm good. I'm good. I don't think a lot of people know this, but we actually haven't met in person, right?
Dude, it was literally a LinkedIn message, three-way message. I was like, how's it? You're like, how's it? Like, let's do this thing. And I'm like, let's
That's
go.
it. But it's great to have you here, man. Thank you so much for coming onto the show. How are you today?
I'm good, brother. I've had a blessed day. I've been
That's
looking
good.
forward to this. Super excited for the live.
Mm,
So it's been a good day. How are
awesome.
you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a good weekend thus far. Quite rested. So yeah, really, really, really enjoying it and quite excited for our conversation tonight. So
Yeah.
I think let's get to it, right? So we usually start off on the show with a bit of a brief introduction.
Mm.
So for everyone watching at the moment and listening afterwards, tell us who you are, where you're from, where did you grow up, what do you currently do, as well as what you're passionate about as well.
Away. Ndinguthabani uGeorge uZikhalutye kuTsolonto nguQoqwa Mtsi elaa qaba laseTsholomo. Born and
Love
raised
it.
in East London, colonially known as East London, but I call it
Yeah,
Emonti. And
yeah,
spent about 18 years of my life there until I moved out to Stellenbosch University to do a civil engineering degree. And I always say I'm primarily a student of life. Ne?
yeah.
And then on the side, I do civil engineering. And what I'm passionate about, quite frankly, and I'm going to talk about this a bit later,
Yeah,
is storytelling. But you'll understand a bit later why that is.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks so much for that introduction. And so, I've seen your mantra, so to speak, on LinkedIn is to not express, not to impress, but to impart. Right. I
Yeah.
think that's incredibly powerful. Tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, where does that come from, and how do you sort of apply that in your life?
So look, as you just said, a mantra is like a daily thing that you live by. It's sort of like a motto of some sort. And
Yeah,
so having the blessing of being blessed with so many skills, talents, and knowledge,
yeah,
expressed not to impress but to impart, is a reminder to not mismanage that
yeah.
and
Mm,
to use that for the benefit of those around me, right?
mm,
And on a daily basis, I constantly remind this. And it's like the golden thread through everything that I do.
mm.
I I think it's so easy to give into the noise of just sipping the Kool-Aid,
Yeah,
buying
absolutely.
what people say about you, and you forget about the fact that you should be imparting and not just impressing.
Yes.
And so I want to encourage everyone at this point in time to take out notes because I'm
Yeah.
going to be imparting some knowledge, which
This
is
is going to be really good. Yeah. Especially I think for anybody watching at the moment, or if you're listening to the podcast at this point in the show, I would advise getting a notebook. This is going to be really,
mm,
really good. So I think, and I really love what you say there. I think it's about imparting knowledge and imparting principles and values that
yeah.
positively impact people's lives, right? So I really, really love that mantra, so to speak. Let's 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 take a step back before we dive into purpose. Let's talk
Yeah.
about you a little bit, right? So let's understand Thabani the person. So I mean, I've sort of read your bio a little bit. So tell us about sort of your journey. What did you study at university, um,
Mm,
and what led you to study that? Tell us a little bit about your public speaking uh, career so far, as well as what
mm.
inspired you to do that. So let's talk about Thabani the person before we dive into the three principles that we're going to discuss today.
Yeah. So listen, as I said, grew up in Monty, born and raised in Monty.
Mm,
And I would say I traversed three environments. There
mm,
was home, which was elokishini, ne?
Yeah.
Emdazana for a large part of my life. And then there was Cholonga, which are the rules where my grandmother was. And then there was school, where I was for most of the day. So I'm traversing these three environments, and they're totally different in terms of what they offer, their values, their principles, and their way of being, right? And so I grew into an in-betweener, so to speak. So this was sort of my journey growing up. And I went to Stellenbosch in pursuit of a professional rugby career, actually.
Wow. Okay.
In 2013, I was fortunate enough to be selected for the Junior Springboks, the SA Schools team. And so I signed a contract with Western Province Rugby Union to go pursue this rugby career. And when I got there, I was like, man, this is not where I'm supposed to be. It's not what I'm supposed to be doing. But I already registered as a civil engineering student. And so by the blessings of God, man, everything came through. The bursaries for the academics came through. And I was able to forfeit that pursuit of that career. And then I went on to study my 5-year civil engineering program. And currently I'm now pursuing my master's in civil engineering. So that's a bit about me, where I come from and what I'm currently doing. And speaking,
so we have,
right? Just in terms of parting and just sharing and expressing.
So we have something in common. We both played rugby in our former days. I'm quite curious, what position did you play in rugby?
Dude, most of my life I was a flank eighth man, right? This is from age 5 until like grade 10, 11. Then grade 11, I became a bit of a fan in some mass tanking season, and I got moved to prop. And I think that was the best decision I've ever made, because I dominated you. Just imagine this freaking dynamic of prop weaving through everyone, stealing. So it was. And then I ended up at prop. But when I come back to rugby, I dabble in both positions depending on how big during that season. What position did you play?
I played prop in primary school. Then so because I didn't know how to play any other position, right? And then made the transition to hooker in grade 8, and the rest of they say is history. So
come on,
having to learn how to throw was quite a transition.
yeah.
But no, that's incredibly interesting, and I think it's important for us to tell a little bit about the story of your story before we sort of go into the three principles. But let's dive into it. So let's now talk purpose, right? And I want to now let's dive into the topic of purpose. What do you understand your purpose to be? You yourself, and has that evolved over time? Has that been something which you've always known? I mean, I've found personally that my idea of my own purpose has evolved with time, but it's been around the sort of same central theme. But as I've sort of grown, it's become a bit more refined. So I'm quite curious as to what you consider your purpose to be and how it's grown with time.
So my purpose is to inspire and edify those within my sphere of influence. Right?
I love that.
And it hasn't always been so well put. As you said, yours evolved over time, mine as well evolved over time. And it's always been there. This is what I advocate for. Purpose, and we'll talk about this a bit later. It's always been there. It's what I've always been doing. But when I started engaging with it, I was able to articulate it and speak about it as I'm speaking about it. So there's two parts to this. There's the inspire, right? And there is the edification. So the inspiring is what's unintentional, right? Or as I put it, it was the word gift to me. This is the messaging I've been getting my whole life, right? That's probably the word I've heard being associated with me and what I do for the majority of my life. Man, you're so inspiring. It's such inspiration from everyone around me. So this is the gift that the world gave to me, right? Because I think purpose, because I said it's always been there, the world is like, listen, here's your purpose, right? My gift, the world gift to me. And then the edification part is my gift to the world, right? Edification is a wonderful word. Its meaning is it's to morally and intellectually instruct for the benefit, right? So whatever I do needs to contribute to the moral and intellectual development of people. So this is my gift to the world. After the world had given me a gift that, listen, you're actually inspirational, whatever that means to whoever says that, I was like, I've been given a specific sphere of influence, and how I want to contribute to that sphere of influence is to edify. So that's about my purpose. And the articulation of it it probably started happening 2 years ago, right? When you start listening to conversations from your cynics, from your Jay Shetty's, from your Mel Robbins. But I think it's always been there. It's always been in my DNA, and it's what I've always been doing. You know, in rugby, in music, in everything that I do.
It's manifested. It's been a central part of your life. So I'm a bit curious as to, you know, so what sort of 2 or 3 key values do you think have formed part of your purpose? So what are the cornerstone values and principles that come within that purpose to inspire and edify within your sphere of influence? What are the 2 or 3 key values that you think have driven that purpose along in your life?
Look, the first one that jumps to mind is service. Christian
I love
by
that.
faith, and service is at the heart of everything that I do. I've been
I love
placed on
that.
this earth to serve. I've been placed on this earth to just bring light, man. So service is at the center of it. And another principle, I don't quite know if this is a principle or it's just a learning that I picked up along the way. I think we are all, let me state a fact, and this is when the notes and the pens need to come out. We are all qualified life changers. Né? But the mere fact of you running into someone, speaking to them, they dedicate their energy, their attention, their time, or other things, right? But the mere fact of someone bumping into you, their life is changed, right? Forever. Scientifically, factually. And so to try and maximize that little bit of time that you've been given to change someone's life and to maximize your life-changing capacity, I've always lived by that. And I think, again, back to my mantra, just expressing to impart, man, you know, just to develop people intellectually and morally as my earth and my gift to earth.
So, I mean, in that journey of pursuing your purpose, what challenges have you sort of found in that sort of pursuit of, you know, pursuing that purpose of yours? And I could judge by the smile on your face that you got some knowledge to impart on us on this one.
No, look, the biggest challenge, honestly, and this was a challenge very early on, and I think it affected me much more early on than it does today. I got a lot of, you're not focused, you're all over the place, right? And you're distracted. It's like you're doing this and that and that and that and that and that and that. And
you're doing too much.
And this was a challenge, right? Because I think you trust the opinions and the views of the people around you. And this was coming from people that love you, and I know they made no intention. It's just they'd seen a specific model, and I think just conformity, man. You know, we all want to travel the road that's being traveled, and so this was an issue early on, and it comes up every now and then, right? In terms of uncertainty, so that's a personal challenge. But I think the minute I embraced that, listen, I've been given a set of skills, right, and talents, and there is no reason why I shouldn't pursue all of these things. And honestly, they weren't in the conversations that I was in with God, right? Because when He sends me, He's like, I want you to do this and that and that.
You go. That's it. Yeah.
The unfortunate reality is that we judge. Let me not say people. We judge people's capabilities and abilities based on our own capabilities and abilities, and
That's true.
So that was the challenge I faced, being quoted as all over the place, unfocused. But the minute I got my rhythm, I was like, they'll see. And later on, when the ball starts rolling, they're like, oh, we see now. We see how all of this thing threads together. That's the biggest challenge.
I mean, you know, going through that process where you it's almost like a catchphrase, but you know, you prove your doubters wrong. And I'm sure in that process, you also prove your own doubt within your own self as well, right? I mean, you also have that sort of voice in yourself which says, but you know, what if they're right about what they say, right? But until you get to that point where it starts working out, where you have the breakthrough moment, you know, it is quite a tough journey to walk, but I think there's incredible growth in that. I think there's so much growth in walking that journey, you know, step by step. But so if I say to you that, you know, what advice would you have to people who don't quite know their purpose? So, you know, how do I find it, right? So where do I find it? Is it what I love doing? Is it what I'm passionate about? How do I sort of find my purpose? And what advice would you give them to pursue that purpose?
Yeah.
What sort of advice would you give them on that?
Look, before I answer this question, I really love the point that you're making about disproving your own self-doubt. I think you believe yourself. And this is very important. You believe yourself. Whatever comes in from the outside, you internalize it and you believe it, it becomes who you are, right? So
Love
just
that.
I point that out. And also, efficacy is so important. I know results are very important. I've been blessed to get a lot of results over the years, and it reaffirms things that you're doing. So seek out not for results, but seek out for efficacy and affirmation, which also then links to what I'm talk about now, how people can find their purpose. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's always been there, right? Your purpose is not something you find. I don't personally think. I think it's a matter of alignment and realignment, right?
Love that.
And I think misalignment happens because of material things. I think seeking for approval and certain things that can become distractions, wanting to fit in, fame, fortune, all of those external things that are not internally driven. And so I think to be in a space of realignment, to give just a practical tip, and this is something I did the other day, I reached out to my mom because I've been doing a skills inventory during this lockdown period. Ask myself, what are my skills? What am I good at? What can I offer? Right? I reached out to my mom. I was like, what was I doing as a lighty? Né? What were the things? What were my strengths? What made me the most happiest? What did I hate? What were my weaknesses? How did I interact with people? And so this little task, like, it's short, man. You speak to your mom or guardian or your dad, whoever you're closest to, whoever was around for the most of your childhood, and they give you so many gifts and so many things. My mom said, I noticed now. For instance, one of the things she said, you always needed to have something in front of you, right? You always needed to have something to do, and that's true. You know, like, I'm constantly on something.
Love that.
And so that's a tip. And I think just introspection, man. You know, I think there's no right or wrong answer, and you are probably walking on your purpose. Just look back to the things that bring you fulfillment. And this might sound very cliche, but just, and another thing I want to point out, just look, right? I have this saying that says, we're all prodigies at something, right?
Absolutely.
So in the million things that are in the world, we are all prodigies at that. So the more things you try, the closer you are at finding what you're a prodigy at. Just do, try things, try new things, and you'll find what gives you the most joy, what gives you the most fulfillment, and that's exactly your purpose.
That's awesome. And I mean, you know, I really love the sort of cornerstone part of what you're saying, which is that it's actually a process. It's not, you don't wake up and it's like, oh, my purpose is this. No, it's actually a process. And, you know, we all are refining our purpose each and every day of our lives in the way it manifests as well. So we're refining, one, our purpose, and two, how it manifests in our lives in the different areas, you know, whether it be back in school in your rugby days, whether it be, you know, now in your speaking, studying, whatever you're up to, right? That purpose manifests itself. But as it sort of manifests itself in different fields, we begin to refine that idea. So the question which came from one of our Q&As prior to this was around, you know, so how do you keep focus on your purpose when such things like money, one, and two, expectations also come around. So how do you protect your purpose? That's the key word in that. So how do you actually protect your purpose when things like money, one, and two, expectations come around?
Look, let me first put out there that I'm an optimist, like, ridiculously. Always light at the end of the tunnel. And so a huge part of my life is just persistence, right? Because when I stopped rugby and I decided to pursue my studies, and I stopped, I didn't even play res rugby, it was nothing, I was done. And so a lot of family members, friends, and loved ones were like, what are you doing, man? Like, what's wrong with you? You're good at this thing. You were selected for the Springbok squad. Like, are you losing it? Like, what's wrong with you? You're losing the plot, right? And because of that innate belief and knowledge and persistence, man, you know, I was able to stick do what I felt called to do. And I think how to protect it is just listening. Ne?
Yeah.
And my listening model is it starts with God above and beyond anything else. Primary, I need to listen to him and see what he wants me to do. That's
I
my
love
first
that.
point. My second point of listening are loved ones, right? Because I think when I'm misaligned, God relates to the ones that I love and the ones whose advice I take dearly, ones whose
Yeah.
advice that I regard highly. And so I listen to them as a secondary listening mechanism. And then the third filter of listening is just the world and the universe, right? I think we get thrown so many gems in humanity and society, be it people who are not your friends, be it on TV. They just moments, you know? And these are not definitive moments of, I've now found it. I'm now moving on. You know? It's a little hint and it keeps on popping out. But we need to listen for it. We need to really genuinely listen. And all of this manifests itself in your heart and in your mind and your heart, right? You get convictions and you can choose to follow them through or just ignore them. So I think when money comes and all of that stuff comes, and you've attuned and you've listened, because your purpose can bring you money, right? It can bring you fame, whatever. But if you listen, man, just listen.
Keep aligned. Yeah, keep aligned. So one of the questions we just had now in the live is, so it says, well, thanks so much for your insight. Have you ever encountered failure, and how did you mitigate encountering failure? So quite a deep question. Yeah.
It is.
On a Saturday night. Yeah, love that.
Dude. So luckily I absolutely love failure, and I'll tell you why now in a bit. I think affirmations are nice, man. You know, like it's nice to be given a pat on the back and to be given that thumbs up. But I genuinely think you learn more and you get refined more when you fail.
Yeah.
I remember early in my speaking, because I was comfortable on stage, I was a bit verbose and, show offy, playy. When someone said, listen, you're arrogant, calm down, you're here to serve, that hit, On my part, that was failure, right? I was supposed to come here and serve and deliver value, and I failed at that. And so how I personally callous, right, myself to failure, I'll apply for about 5 opportunities every month religiously. Predominantly things that I'm not qualified for, just to understand that relationship between me and failure is not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with me, right?
Yeah.
And this is not to say we must not listen when we're doing something wrong. Obviously, be attuned to what's happening. But I see failure as it's just when it's mine, it's mine. And if it's not aligned, I'm not going to get it, But a lot of this has to do with just being attuned and listening. And this is not to say every opportunity that you don't get, now chuck it away and say it's not mine. But I think we do need to get into the mindset that failure, and as cliche as this may sound, failure is really not a setback. It's just a learning curve, to move forward. I've done this thing. I save all my we regret to inform yous. And dude, if I could see that link, there are about 80 something of those things, and I love that because I'm going to print them one day and stack them up on a platform so big that I could freaking build a podium and speak behind my list of failures over the years. You know what I mean? Like, who needs a podium when you have failure, right? So let's embrace failure. You're being refined. You're being pulled to introspect. So that's how I mitigate failure. There's no avoiding it. We all fail at a lot of things. I probably fail more than I succeed. But it's just part of life, man. It's part of life.
I really love that. I think that is so inspiring. I mean, just how your perspective on that, to really see it as a positive step forward. So let's talk about something that you love, right? Tell me about slashing. What is the slashing thing? I mean, when you said this word to me, couple of weeks back. I was like, what is he talking about? I have no idea what this word means. And then you sent me a screenshot of the
Yeah.
definition. And I was like, it's like he read my mind. He knew I would look at the word and be like, I don't understand what that means. I have no idea what it means.
Dude.
So
Look,
tell me about this principle of slashing. What is it? And you know, how would you best describe it, one? And would you describe yourself as a slasher, and why?
So slashing, I also just found out about slashing sometime this year. So you're not alone there, and anyone who doesn't know what slashing is, you're not alone. It is
Makes you feel a little bit better, yeah.
But slashing is basically, you know, that you get people. Let me not talk about me. I am, for instance, a civil engineer / speaker / musician / poet / artist. So slashing is, right? Having all of these quote unquote occupations that you do and these fields of expertise, right? That you deliver value on these platforms, different platforms of expressing. So that's basically what slashing is. Some people connotate it to being a workaholic, always being on the roll, always being busy, which needs to be controlled and maintained as well. And I, as I said, I am a slasher. And this comes from that central purpose being to inspire and edify those within. Inspiring and edifying those influence, then everything's set, right? I could be a ballerina, dude, and if I'm inspiring and I'm edifying, then I'm set, right? I could be. So when I was a rugby player, when I was in the Stellenbosch Fire, like everything that I do has got this golden thread, and a slasher's life, you sort of assume all of these platforms at different times in your life. Sometimes I'm super inspired and I write a lot of poetry, and I make up like music and arrange songs and stuff like that. But there's some parts of my life that's just switched off, and I'm just academic, thesis writing, research, civil engineering. And there's sometimes I'm super inspired to speak. I'm writing up speeches, I'm delivering speeches and stuff like that. So that's what slashing is. It's this model that you're not refined to one thing. And slashing has always existed. If you look at your Aristotle's and your earlier pioneers, these oaks were everything, right? Like I was reading some theological pieces from Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton has some theological pieces, and this guy's a scientist. So it's always been
amazing,
but I think more embraced today.
So how do you balance, right, pursuing success in different fields? So I mean, how do you balance you go 100% in different fields? How do you manage to balance that? Well, I think we lost him just for a second. Just hold for him to come back. But hopefully you guys are enjoying this so far. Okay, Thabani, can you hear me?
Got you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Did you get my question, or can I repeat my question?
Repeat that, please. Yeah.
Okay, sure. No problem. I was saying, so how do you balance pursuing success in different fields at the same time? So you what you're describing is you're going 100% success in field A, field B, field C at the same time. How do you balance that? How do you balance your focus, to actually be able to pursue so many different things at the same time?
So, as I said, these things they happen at specific phases of my life, right? And so when I do, for instance, a certain thing, I'm super focused 100% in that specific thing for that specific period in my life. So I try not to juggle too many things at once. I'm not doing this and that and that and that and that and that and that, because I think that could really make me lose focus. But when I do something, I'm super focused, super in it, and dedicate all my time, energy, and effort in it, right? And then I'll move out. It's almost like a house. You're in a specific room, and you do everything you need to do in that room. Let's say one room is a gym, one room is a painting studio, one room is a bed, right?
I love
In
that
the bed,
analogy.
sleep hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
8
Yeah.
hours the whole thing. In
That's
the
it.
paint
Yeah.
room, like you paint, right?
Mm.
Ceaselessly. And in the gym, you go in, right?
Mm.
But you don't bring a painting brush to the gym. You don't bring weights to the bedroom. You don't bring
Yeah.
blankets to the painting room, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, all of it is super focused at a specific point in time, but you're able to
Mm.
focus on various things in specific periods of your life. So that's how I maintain that balance.
I love that. So tell me, you yourself, how do you switch off? What do you do to rest? How do you manage your own sort of fatigue, stress? You know, pursuing success is no easy business. How do you
Yeah.
manage to rest? What do you do to switch off?
What is that? What is rest? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Um, look, brother. Every week from Friday evening to Saturday evening, I take the Sabbath.
Mm,
And this
love
is
that.
ceasing from everything, right? I
Mhm.
literally switch off, and it's just me on the ring side, on the corner, and I'm just getting tips on how to get back into the ring, right?
Love
So
that.
I take that time off,
Mm,
and very intentional with spending time outside of work that I do, right? So as much as I work hard and I'll be super focused, when it's time to cease from the work, I actually go all out, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like I become a
mm,
kid, I become a child.
mm.
Um, and my cousin and I the other day were freaking riding on trolleys, driving each other in the mall, right? Uh,
I
so
love that.
I give in and I roll back and I don't work at all. Try not to occupy my mind
Yeah.
with that when I'm outside. So it's like also when I'm in the rest mode, I'm super focused, super resting, and zooming in on that aspect of my life.
Mm, mm.
Mm.
Someone says here, success knows no sleep. Eat, live, and breathe success.
Yay! I wouldn't encourage no sleeping. Sleep
We're
is
not encouraging
important.
that either. We're not encouraging no sleeping. But no, I love that. I love that comment. Thank you so much for that comment. So let's talk anthropogenic engineering, right?
Come on.
Talk to me a little bit about this principle and
Mm,
what you understand it to be, and what how it applies to your life.
mm. So, anthropogenic engineering is a term I bumped into about 2 years ago.
Mm,
When I completed my civil engineering degree, I I found myself in the space where I was like, I don't know, it feels a bit too technical, it feels a bit too restricted, and it doesn't speak to people's needs. So the word
mm,
anthro has to do with human relations and how humans live, right?
love
Photogenic is just a nice word you can throw in there for anthropogenic.
that.
So anthropogenic engineering is engineering that speaks to the needs of people at the very heart of them. So in
Yeah.
civil engineering, we use what we call design manuals, right? These
Mm,
are steps that have been taken in the past to design certain structures, certain buildings, certain systems,
yeah.
and quite they work, but a lot of them are outdated if they're not
Mm,
Eurocentric, right? And so anthropogenic engineering is looking at your direct environment and how you can design for that environment.
love that. Love that. So oh, I think we just lost him again. Um, but while we get Thabani back, just to let you guys know, so I am seeing your questions. Thanks very much. And we'll go through the questions, some of them in between and some of them towards the end. But yeah, please do keep using the Q&A feature. But let's just give Thabani a moment quickly. I think he's going to rejoin. Okay, let's just give him a second. Just hang tight. But I am seeing some of your questions. Thanks so much. I'm seeing another two here around slashing, as well as the skill of improving and talking, as well as conversing and engaging with people as well. I love that. That's a really awesome question. We're going to go through that. Thanks so much. And any other questions that you guys do have, let me know. See, Thabani is back. All right, let's go. basically part two. Yeah, love this. Okay, just give me a second. Connecting. Ah, you're back. I was telling people now we going for part two. So, but while you were away, I was just letting people know that they can ask their questions. Um, I was just letting people know that they can send through questions in the Q&A. So I've already got two or three questions already. I asked you the one, but we'll just go through some of the questions at the end of the discussion. Some of them around slashing, some of them around anthropogenic engineering, some of them around speaking. So we'll just quick fire go through all of the questions towards the end. But so we were talking anthropogenic engineering, and I was gonna ask you around, so in an African context, right? How do you see this as a solution-based approach to the way we solve problems in Africa? What do you think that there's space for it in sort of the way we attack problems in Africa as a principle, and how best do you think it can help us do that?
So Africa, I would say, is probably the best place to do this, right? Because we have been gifted with this spirit of Ubuntu, and I want to explain this a bit more. I think Africans, and in all the places that I've traveled, right, I find that I'm most likely the most communal person in the room. Probably the most social, probably the one that makes the quickest human connections and interactions, right? I think Africans are wildly emotionally intelligent and just attuned with humanity and humanity's needs. And so Africa is the best place to carry out something like anthropogenic engineering, right? With for instance, with methods such as design thinking, which I saw you spoke about the other day.
Shout out to episode 5. Love that.
Bam.
Amazing, right? Yeah.
So, because we're so attuned with humanity and the needs of humanity. Like, look at how our grandmothers do things, man. Mother had a refrigerator without having a refrigerator. She knows how tanks work. Like things like a baby comes into life, and she knows how to take care of a baby. Small things that we just know that come intuitively to us as Africans. So I think Africa is the best playing ground for human-centered design, and it's where it's most needed. So this is the best field.
Love that. And so you spoke about Ubuntu briefly as well. How do you think the sort of two principles align? Are we talking one and the same thing? And so you've obviously spoken about, we have these sort of inherent values instilled in us as Africans, but how do you sort of think these two principles align already in an African context at the moment?
So this is Ubuntu and anthropogenic engineering, né?
Yeah.
I think with Ubuntu, I am through you.
Yes.
And through you, I find my being, my business. Right? And so, in an anthropogenic engineering setting, the top principle is that design is too important to be left to the designers, right? So,
I love that. That's really powerful.
The building is too important to be left to the design of the builder, because how are they going to address the needs of the mobility challenged, the disabled? How are they going to address the needs of so many people that walk through that building as one man? So anthropogenic engineering is calling for design that is collaborative, and Ubuntu, by its pure nature, is collaborative. It's saying I'm nothing without you. You're nothing without me.
I love that.
And so it speaks about communality and just relations between people. So it removes these unnecessary hierarchies and places hierarchy of competence rather than just unnecessary hierarchies, man.
No, I love that. I really, really love that. So, and I can see you getting a lot of love in the comments as well, which is awesome. So let's go through some of the questions, right, that we have from the floor. So let's go back to slashing briefly. And the question is around, what advice do you have for someone who wants to start a new slash, but is feeling a little bit scared to do it?
Go for it. Like, the question really makes me excited, man. Like, dude, we are given plus minus 100 plus years, right? On maximum to live on this earth.
Yeah.
And as I said, we are all prodigies at something. There's something that you touch and you're gonna absolutely smash at it. Yeah? So try it. Earlier on I spoke about ballet. Dude, if my daughter in the future is a ballerina, I'm going to be a ballerina. Right? I'm going to go to ballet practice and kill it. If I become a professional ballet, that could be what I'm a prodigy in, right?
Yeah.
So just iterate, try new things, and just don't limit yourself. Like life, I don't want to say life is too short because it is the longest thing you do, but like just do it. You fail, okay, you tried something, you failed. And what happens in those instances is that they give you so much gems. Like you could find out that you're actually very good at a specific thing while doing that. When I discovered poetry, it was because I was trying to rap, right? We all go through those phases with rappers. You listen to Lil Wayne and you're like, I can spell bars. So I was busy writing rhymes, dude, thinking I'm a rapper. And then I actually realized that it's not rhythm and poetry, it's just poetry. So I'll stick to the poetry part. But if I become a rapper one day, I'm a rapper,
Yeah, exactly.
So just try new things out. It's just try it out.
I love it. I love that. I hope that I'm sure that answers the question very nicely. So another question is, how can a person improve on the skill of talking and conversing as well as engaging with people? That's a question to us both, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you take this one, and then I'll try to top it off a little bit. Let's see what happens.
Look, voice note more, right? I'm going to give practical tips now because I think you can go conceptual about this or you can go practical.
Yeah.
Voice note more, send more voice notes, right? And a small tips about voice notes, and it's a challenge actually. Try end a voice note without saying goodbye. I think this improves communication so much more because it doesn't confine the voice note. You just send something, you just said something.
Yeah.
Note more, record yourself more. This is also a practical tip. Record yourself and let yourself speak for you to know what things you do and where the shortcomings are, right?
Yeah.
I think when I work with people in their speaking, I love a person that says, this is where I suck at, this is where I'm good at, right?
Yeah.
And I can also say, okay, I think you also need work here, you need work there. But just test it out, speak to yourself in the mirror, voice note more, and record yourself speaking. And I think so that those are the practical things just to get training, because you can only refine the art of speaking, you speak more. And again, I want to encourage people to dive straight in, right? And view every interaction as an engagement, because it is, right? When I'm on stage, it doesn't feel like there are 70 people in front of me. There are 100 people in front of me, and I'm speaking to these people, or they're listening to me. It feels like what I'm doing with you now. We're having a conversation.
We're just chatting. Yeah.
Falls part in that expressing, not to impress, but to impart. And a tip for nerves. So those are the practical tips. Then just a tip for nerves. I think it's probably been said a lot of times, but when you stand on a stage, the majority of the audience, wants you to succeed, right?
Yeah.
They genuinely do. They genuinely want you to win, and you'd have to do a very bad job for you to even be remembered by those people 10 seconds after the engagement.
Yeah.
So if you don't go well, they're probably going to forget, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we're worried about. There are kids, there's work, there's money, there's that, and who's going
to many things, man. Yeah.
Who's going to remember for the whole day this one person?
Exactly. No.
Fail more, voice note more, and speak more. That's
that.
my
concise. Love that. So tell us a little bit about how you became a youth ambassador, right? And how does that also fit in with your overarching purpose?
Yeah. So the global youth ambassador lisps. The global youth ambassadorship came as a result of just advocacy work, right? I went on the Their World website. Someone
Okay.
has told me about them, and what they do is they look at goal 4, which is to educate young people and to try and make education more accessible.
Love
And
that.
if you look at the purpose, it's to inspire and edify those around me. And education is
Yeah.
about intellectual and moral development, right?
Mm.
And so, this with the purpose, I'm able to. I have a specific sphere of influence with high schoolers, primary schoolers, be
Yeah.
it relatives or otherwise. And so I was like, that's how I took the ambassadorship, for me to be
Yeah.
able to make education a bit more accessible to young ones, and also because I'm an advocate for education, right?
Yeah. Mm.
And I think there's a need for African voices in education. And
Love
when I say voices, I mean people who are going to lead, for instance, with storytelling,
Mm.
as a mechanism of research. People who are gonna lead with human specific outcomes in their research
I
and in
love
their
that.
work. And
Mm.
so that's why I'm a youth ambassador. It's for education.
I love that. I really, really love that. So as a final point, we have come to the end of our
Oh,
chat. But I I want to give you an opportunity to, last words that you want to tell to all people who are listening to this,
mm,
watching this live right now, watching it on the YouTube channel, or
mm.
listening to the podcast. When they do listen to it, your final piece of advice to
Yeah.
everybody listening.
Look, first and foremost, I want to thank you for giving us your time. I think time is the biggest commodity we all have. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for allowing us to serve. Thank you so much for allowing us to deliver value. And we really hope that we did deliver value.
yeah,
Hope your notebooks are full. And if they're not, you revisit and you watch it again and you listen to it again.
yeah,
Um, I'm not big on advice because I genuinely think that one's life journey is a personal thing. But I am big on just not necessarily advice, but just gems that you can learn from people. I started off by saying I'm a student of life. Everything that I am and ever will be is a result of my environment and everything that I absorb. Right?
mm,
I've learned a great deal from people around me. I've learned a great deal from family members, friends, loved ones, strangers, even. You know. So if anything, my what I'd like to put out there is just listen. You know, listen. People are very insightful. Even and this is not hierarchically based. And I've learned to realize this, man. I've had the most interesting, most intellectual conversations with security guards, bro.
yeah,
Um, with with people of all ages, all occupations, all races. It's all been insightful. And the
mm,
blessing when you interact with people and you want to learn from people is that you can just literally discard what you don't agree with. You can
yeah.
discard what you don't want to use, and you can just throw it out, right?
Move on.
Um,
Yeah,
Conversations with your Afrikaners who don't necessarily vibe with us, right?
mm,
Um, but I go into the conversations with a learner's mind, right? With a teachable spirit.
mm.
And I grab whatever I can, and whatever's toxic, I chuck it out. And if I address it, I'll address it at that point in time. And if they listen, then blessings. If they don't, then sorry.
Mm.
But like, just listen, listen. You learn a great deal from people.
Love that.
Um, so yeah, that's my parting words. Not advice, really. Just me sharing my life story.
But wise words, wise words. Thabani, this has been amazing. I have thoroughly enjoyed this. I love your energy, man. Your energy is something to behold, and it's 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 certainly so unique. I feel like I've met you, even though we've never met,
Dude,
right? And like
yeah,
I hope that one day in the very near future, once we're allowed to go outside and all those things, we can
yes, sir.
definitely actually meet in person. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't know that you're a guest to Instagram at the moment. You actually
dude,
didn't have Instagram before this, and I actually managed to convince you to come on to Instagram Live. So thank you so much for coming onto Instagram first of all, and then
Yeah.
onto impactful conversations as well. I've thoroughly enjoyed the lessons that I think you've shared. The power of
Mhm.
what you've told us is something we shouldn't underestimate. And I think, I'll be listening to this
Mhm.
back myself. I'll be listening to the podcast and making sure that I actually have my notebook next to me. The only problem is I'm live with you, so I can't have my notebook right. So, but I'm definitely going to listen to this again. I think you've imparted so much knowledge, and I think this discussion has really, really crystallized those sort of three things that we spoke about in terms of purpose, slashing, and anthropogenic engineering, but overall central, almost in accordance with your purpose, to inspire and to edify those within your circle of influence. And I think you have lived that in this conversation. I look forward to an episode 2.0 with you.
Come on.
I really do look forward to that. We must do that again, right? This is just the beginning. There's lots of stuff which I'm sure lots of people would love to ask and love for us to chat through. So that's definitely coming in the future. I'd love to have that. But thank you so much. This was amazing, man. Absolutely amazing.
Brother, thank you so much for giving me the platform to serve. And what you're doing right now is phenomenal, man. Like, you're giving knowledge to the masses, right? You're
Thanks,
literally an evangelist. I hear the work that you do. And thank you to everyone for giving us their time.
Yeah.
Time is a huge commodity. Thank you for joining us. You've been part of this experience, and you've made it a blessing to us as well, because it gives purpose to what we do, right?
Yeah.
We could have had this conversation on a WhatsApp call, but
Yeah.
we decided
That's
to
it.
do it. And everyone
That's
came
it.
out through, and I just want to thank everyone for that. And not to mismanage glory. It's not I, but Christ, man.
Love that.
Trust to God.
Love
And
that.
I'm just a mere vessel.
Yeah. Yeah. But until next time, Thabani, thank you so much. I hope that you stay safe. Hope that you stay healthy. And I look forward to meeting you in person one day again soon.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Blessings.
Cheers, brother. Have a good evening.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys enjoyed that. So this past week we launched Impactful Conversations podcasts. So the podcasts are going to be available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. We'll be rolling out to other podcast uh, host sites soon. But head over to Impactful Conversations on either of those two platforms, as well as the YouTube channel, to check out previous episodes as well as this one. I'll try and get this up as soon as I can. But yeah, see you guys next weekend. I'm super excited for the guests for next weekend. You'll hear more about that in the coming days. But until then, I hope that you all stay safe, that you stay healthy, and see you again soon. Cheers. Bye bye.